It's Tuesday. Welcome to it. Blogz on Balls, right here on balls.co.za. With me, Ben Karpinski.
It's simply Sean
Yes,
Wilson.
the two of us bring you sport every single Tuesday, 10 until 12. We have, again, jam-packed show. We have cricket coming out of every RFI you could think of this week. We've got guests coming in over the internet. We've got Dennis from Down Under in Melbourne. He's our Aussie sports analyst. He's coming in at around 11 o'clock our time. In the second hour, we also have Alt Cricket, the doyen of sporting social media. He's coming in. And we've got Sport Billy coming back briefly towards the end of the second hour. So, Sean, it's Champions Trophy coming up. But along with that, we've, of course, got some juicy football headlines. Keegan Kruger from the Pundits is coming in as well. And there's some spicy stories with even a touch of F1 this week. I feel like I'm actually outdoing myself.
There's F1 on the show.
Oh, yeah.
This is ridiculous.
There's
So
an
in
F1
the first
bit.
minute, we revealed where there's F1 on the show, and you used the word orify as a plural for orifice.
Is that right?
I have no idea.
I hope it
I'm
is.
proud of you.
That's what happens,
When
Sean.
in doubt, make it up. Yeah.
You always bring out such big words that, well, generally I feel very inferior. So I used RFI early on. Take that. Can't wait for your retort. We also have a very interesting music theme today. I woke up and for some strange reason I thought a high-pitched shrill is needed in my life. So our theme for today is all high-pitched music. Artist, vocalist, who sung at a rather high... Is octave the word, Sean?
Oof, you are on fire this morning.
Who sung with a high octave. So we've got high-pitched tuner coming up, and we've got sport trivia. Last week, Sean delivered a bit of a doozy as far as how many Springboks play or have Heineken Cup medals. Right, today we're formalizing the chat a bit. If you go onto the Bouncers WeChat page on WeChat, the social chat application par excellence, you can find a question which could win you a signed and framed Proteas 2010-2011 test shirt. Now, test shirts are quite hard to come by. You don't often see them in the shops. It's the white one. It's not the multicolored pajama one. So all you need to do is go onto the WeChat page and answer the question we've posed to you. For those of you not on WeChat, the question today is, Sean, and this is quite a tough one, but not one that's impossible. How many South Africans, as in Proteas bowlers, have achieved 5 wicket hauls in the Champions Trophy? We're looking for the number, and we're looking for the names of these bowlers. How many Proteas bowlers have taken Champions League 5 wicket hauls? Champions Trophy 5 wicket hauls.
Jeez, that is a good question.
I can give you a clue. One of them's left-handed. No, it's not Brett Schultz. So we'll get the answers to that. If you go onto our WeChat page, you can answer and win that amazing prize right now. It is on. Sean, I suppose we cannot wait. We need to get into our high-pitched Tuesday theme tune.
Please do.
Sure.
Please do.
This playlist, it's busting with talent, and we're going to start off right now.
It's a very good kind of point to our dulcet tones.
Yeah, because Sean and I are quite heavy in the baritone. Oh yeah, some high-pitched goodness right there. Jamiroquai Virtual Insanity. All the songs today will have a high-pitched vocalist. I don't know how you feel about that, but something tells me it's novel. Sean, going into our headlines, and with the soccer season on the down, obviously there's less headlines, there's less attraction. But that's never stopped us before, because Sachin Tendulkar has retired from IPL. Actual status.
Yes, at the young age of 40, he decided to give IPL a go.
Well, Sachin, if you're tired of the IPL, you're tired of life. I don't know what this means about the rest of you.
I think he's still got a few years left in him. I mean, there should be, if Sachin's going, how many else are going to go? I think he's younger than Gilchrist.
He is. Is he?
Yeah, I think Gilchrist was 42 or so. There was a debutant the other day who was like 40. Yeah.
He was 40. Yeah, I think retiring from the IPL, that's like me declaring I'm no longer going to eat red apples. Like, it doesn't really mean a hell of a lot in the world. It's like, okay, Sachin, well done. But all credit to him. Somehow he manages to bow out with a winner's medal. But IPL's over, which is a good thing. On to golf. Matteo Manacero wins the BMW PGA Championships. And Sean, I don't know how much you know about this guy, being a golfist that you aren't. He's 20, okay?
Yeah, I saw that part and then I was just too disgusted to read further.
He's 20 years
I'm
old.
so jealous of people that win these things when they're that age.
Okay, he just won 800 sort of plus €1,000 for this win. But now, to put this in context, he's 20 years old. No one has ever won, I think, as many tournaments at this age. He was the youngest winner of the actual PGA Champs this last weekend at Wentworth.
Yeah.
And he's won, he's been a pro for all of 4 years. He's won every one of those years.
Chewy.
17, 18, 19, 20. At the age of 17, he won a European Tour event. He's then won one at 18 and 19 and now 20. Really, really good player. And with all the hype around Rory McIlroy, Sergio Garcia's potty mouth and stuff, it's so great that there's someone actually kind of under the radar and he's just doing so well. Really good guy. Just watch out for that name going forward.
It's always nice to add a bit of Latin flair to kind of golfing passion as well.
Yeah,
I hope.
But he looks
I'm
like
stereotyping here, but I'm hoping that we get to see some Latin tantrums on the field.
No, not at all. I think he's quite a straight-laced, all-together kind of guy. He's married.
Yeah.
At the age of 20. It's also quite rare for this day and age. He's a really nice guy. He smiles when he does something good. You know, he doesn't really act out. He's not going to throw his shoe into the crowd.
The more I hear about this man, the more I don't like him.
Yeah, okay, me too. Moving on. Bulls and Cheetahs march on in Super Rugby. Now, I don't know how many of you have been watching the log. Because remember in the past, there was one log. It was the log. And you would watch that and you go, this, and that. Now there's the conference log, there's the combined log. It's harder to follow, so I don't know if people still do. But anyway, the Bulls are in second, and the Cheetahs are in fourth.
Indeed.
Which wouldn't have called that beginning of the season. They look, they're both pretty much shoes in for the playoff, shoe-ins for the playoff. Bulls, of course, do have that opportunity to finish first, but then again, quite a tough schedule for them at the end here.
It is
banana peel tough.
It is banana peel tough. Listen, the team that's ahead of them, the Chiefs, are 2 points ahead, and they don't have the easiest run in either. Like, sure, the Chiefs have a bye next week, so they get 4 freebie points there. But then after their bye, their last few games are the Hurricanes at home, the Crusaders away, and the Blues away.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're going to run away with these things. It's probably quite comparable
Those
to
are actual proper tough matches.
Those are proper tough
Yeah.
matches. You compare it to the Bulls ones, which is the Cheetahs this weekend.
Well, that's a toughie. Then they've got to face the Sharks at home.
Yeah. The Kings at home.
Kings at home.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously the Stormers at home, which they've shown, despite being quite, well, dog excrement this year, they are quite tough still to beat. Ask the Reds.
They'll be pretty chuffed to poop that party. It'll be the last weekend of the thing, and if there's home semis on the line, the Stormers will be quite chuffed to poop it. But I think, but this weekend's quite a key one when the Crusaders play the Cheetahs. We'll probably speak about it a bit later. But if the Blues win, if the Bulls beat the Cheetahs. See, these team names are even confusing these days. If the Bulls beat the Cheetahs, that's almost the South African Conference, almost mathematically in the bag.
It is pretty much, yeah.
So, which is kind of where the Chiefs are now in their conference.
Sure.
And the Brumbies are also probably one win away from being that in the bag.
And good for the Brumbies to bounce back the way they've done. I mean, they lost twice in a row, but then they win on the weekend. But sure, we won't get into that now. We're going to get into your section of what we can learn from round 15 of Super Rugby. So on to cricket again. Like I said at the top of the show, there's loads of cricket on today. We have 2 experts coming in over the Skype. It's going to be exciting. England to host the 2019 Cricket World Cup. Do these guys not get too many tournaments?
You know, if you want to be like that, this
I do indeed.
This is technically the 5th Cricket World Cup that England will be set to host.
We've had
one. Australia are about to host their 2nd.
Okay, now let's just
it's
put
bloated
this down
slightly because the first 3 were all held in England.
Okay, fair enough. In the 70s and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, but saying that, is it fair enough? I mean, that's a reason why it was spread around.
Well, like, I understand economics and all that kind of stuff, but we can also actually bring in the factor of the sun, seeing as cricket needs it to be played.
And this tournament is generally played around, I think the last World Cup was played in England in '99, was played around April and May of the year, like before the real English summer kicks in.
Right, is it?
Yeah, it's pretty cold and it's pretty rainy that time of the year, the way they have to incorporate the
Doesn't
World
make
Cup.
sense. This is like playing the Football World Cup in Qatar. They're still doing that, aren't they?
They are still doing that, so I hear.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Anyway, Bayern Munich, they don't worry about rain, mist, fog, sun, whatever. They are champions of Europe, and rightly so. They've been an amazing side this year, knocking over Juventus and, of course, Barcelona to get the Champions Trophy.
That was one of the best finals I can have in memory. I thought it was really entertaining, really watchable. And maybe just... You know, the Bundesliga is a funny league because it seems like Bayern Munich are obviously the biggest team in it historically.
Sure.
But generally in the years gone by, either Bayern Munich win the title and everyone else complains, well, this is going to be an era of Bayern Munich dominance. And then the next season, another team will sneak up and get the title.
Yeah.
You'll see a sneaky Wolfsburg or something, or Bayer Leverkusen up there, you know.
They do have some very fruity names.
So
I'm not sure they're all around nowadays, but I was looking through the old Champions League winners sort of accolade list.
Yeah.
So it goes back to like the 50s.
Yeah, when Real Madrid won the first one in the 50s, yeah.
But I mean, like Real Madrid beat Celtic like 7-1 once.
There's one result. I think I know what you're thinking about. I think Real Madrid beat Borussia Mönchengladbach.
Yes, actually, that's spot on.
7-3.
And it was in Glasgow.
Yeah.
In front of 124,000 people.
Yeah. Borussia Mönchengladbach, they say they're famous for when no one makes the fans more scared when a Borussia Mönchengladbach guy stands up and says, "Give me a B."
Yeah, okay, we'll talk more about the football with Keegan. Now, interestingly, Heineke Meyer is said to have a bit of a problem with how he's going to choose his Bok fly half. And I don't know if he's been watching Super Rugby of late, but I'm pretty sure he's going to go with Morné Steyn, right?
I'm pretty sure for this series that he's going to go for Morné Steyn. Well, certainly between him and Lambie.
Pat Lambie has just looked like a twilight teenager with much angst all season. His team's been going nowhere. He hasn't done a hell of a lot. He's had this like sort of nonplussed look on his face the whole season. I think you got to go with Morné. But now the real problem is, do we have any locks?
That is far more concerned than fly half at the moment. Because now there's been niggles to 4 were called up in the initial squad of 38. And when you think about it, with a squad of 38, 4 locks is quite light, actually.
Surely you can get some tall timber in there to cover that position.
Yeah, I mean, we've really got a problem with Andries Becker being missing, or unavailable.
But he was missing when he actually played in the Rugby Championship last year as well.
So now, the 4 locks were Joandre Krier, who's off to France, of course.
Yep.
Eben Etzebeth, Pieter Stef de Toy, and Flip van der Merwe. Now, Flip van der Merwe and Joandre Krier have niggles, and they brought in Franco van der Merwe to come in. And a lot of people get a little confused with this. I see with lock selections, guys go crazy when their lock isn't selected. So, like, so many people are upset that Ludovic de Jager at the Cheetahs has been selected. But I think what some people must understand is you get enforcer locks and you get locks that actually read the line out. And this squad initially had too many enforcers and not enough squads that could actually read the line out, guys like Andries Becker or Joandre Krier. In short, to put it in layman's term, the locks that has too many buckies and not enough victors.
Yeah, and we need victors because I think you can mold the buckies every now and again.
Yeah, and Franco, this will be the first time you'll ever hear this comparison ever on the show, but Franco van der Merwe is a victor. He's a guy that reads the line out from the middle, whereas...
He's a number 5 to those,
yeah,
to put a jersey on the back.
Yeah, and when you take out Joandre Krier and Andries Becker, the cupboard's pretty bare. Eben Etzebeth has probably been selected as the number 5 lock, and he only played there for the first time on the weekend against the Stormers, and it went well for the Stormers, and it went well against the Reds.
Yeah, I think he's good enough to go anywhere. That's just the thing about it.
So do we just go for the mold and just put Eben Etzebeth there, build for the future now, even though it's technically a new type of role for him?
I reckon he's young enough, he's good enough, and he played his entire school career as a backline player, apparently. So he knows how to catch a ball.
And if he can get it right, how exciting does the future look in that position? How intimidating would it be in the lock position? Like with Eben Etzebeth or a guy like Pieter Stef de Toy in 2 years' time.
Yeah, Pieter Stef de Toy, there's a big future for him there. Not that the province saw that because they gave him to the Sharks. Anyway, Sean, we'll get back to rugby. Formula One. Yes, I think we should actually have a moment here. Sasha's not even here to witness this. We've got a Formula One headline. Simon Hill's joined next to me. Looks like he has hay fever. Either that or he's got an advertising problem.
We're leaving for Mozambique.
Okay.
Woo!
Is that why you got such sweaty palms and Nicole was standing next to you?
It's 4 hours in the car with Nicole today, and then another 5 tomorrow, baby.
Simon, there's a worrying glint in your eyes that I do not want to see ever. I'm so glad you're wearing a shirt when you told me that. Now get up.
Oh, yeah.
Roman Grosjean, okay, there's this guy. He's basically like, he's a crash test dummy of note. If you go into thebounce.co.za, I posted this thing this morning. It was a compilation of his best crashes from GP2 to F1. Now, he's just been fined 10 grid places, okay? So when he starts the Canadian Grand Prix, wherever he qualifies, I take it, he'll be 10 back. So I'm thinking he's just going to play it safe so he doesn't break any more cars, and he'll start at the back anyway. But he had 3 crashes at Monaco in one weekend. But if you watch them, it is like watching a drunk guy at those little go-karting tracks on the weekend. It's just useless.
Because it's a narrow track as well, Monaco.
But he's just he has no sort of spatial awareness, apparently. And there was this F1 expert on Sky News last night. Oldish guy. You can see he's been around the track a few times. Anyway, he said they should take him out, they should ban him from the sport, and he must go and race sports cars or rally cars, somewhere where he can go hit the trees.
Hit the trees. Is that his... Oh,
yeah,
man.
That's how bad he is. He's irked this guy at such a level. So yeah, Roman Grosjean, if you are going to watch F1, look out for this guy. He's very interesting indeed. On to football. Crystal Palace yesterday scored what was a £120 million goal by old veteran Kevin Phillips. 1-0 they beat, was it Watford?
They beat Watford 1-0 in the
Watford
final
1-0.
at Wembley.
So
Kevin
they got-
Phillips, 39 years old.
39 years old, and he said, and I quote, "I'm going to take a break after this." No, mate, I think you're going to retire.
Yeah, I think it's going to be done
I'm
now.
going to come back when I'm 45 and I've learned a bit about the game. So, look, I mean, buying out, wow, what a big thing for him. But yeah, Crystal Palace is going to be up, and I've just been informed on Twitter. Let me just scroll down. I've got to quote this guy. Sheldon Wiggle, Wigil. I hope I've pronounced that right, Sheldon. Sheldon just informed me that the last time Crystal Palace were in the Premiership, Arsenal won it.
Well, the last time Arsenal won a trophy, Crystal Palace were in the Premier League.
Ah.
I think that's more the line.
Okay.
But fair point enough. Good
Sheldon,
enough.
if you want to get quoted on this show, you better know your stuff because Sean will back you down. But yeah, good omen. So good for Crystal Palace. It'll be nice to see them back up, along with Hull City and
Cardiff are the team that won the division.
Cardiff and Hull City. Right.
Yeah. The playoffs work like third place, sixth, and fourth place, fifth, and then
Right.
those two work in a
That's
semi
nice.
final.
Playoffs are great. They have to come to Super Rugby at some stage, and we have to two-tier that thing. We can definitely learn a lot from football.
We do.
Definitely.
It's identical.
Unanimous. We'll talk about that one day. Final headline for the week, Sean, before we get back into some more high-pitched classics. Oh, the next one coming up. Such a belter. Anyway, Dylan Hartley banned for bad language.
This is an awesome story. For those of you unfamiliar with it, basically Dylan Hartley, I'm not going to swear on the radio, but basically Dylan Hartley in the Aviva Premiership final on the weekend called the referee fornicating cheat, should we say.
Okay,
And
yeah,
he was
gotcha.
sent off. The key word that got him sent off, not being the F word, but it was the cheat word. as
Yeah,
it
you
was
can't
later
call people
said.
cheats. I mean, people be called fornicators on an ongoing
Oh,
basis. Simon called me that earlier. But cheat,
But-
I will not have cheat.
So Dylan Hartley gets an 11-game ban, which it doesn't look like he's going to appeal, which means he misses the Lions tour. What an expensive way to go. But like looking at Dylan Hartley's CV, this guy really is a special piece of work for those of you unfamiliar with him. He's got a disciplinary record with the punching. He's been banned for punching in the past before, but when it comes to that, his disciplinary record, that's just the potatoes. Here comes the gravy. The guy's also been banned for eye gouging as well as stamping on players as well. There's a little
Yeah,
fleck
well,
on
that's
face as
that's
well.
the thing.
It's
It's
just-
the Suarez theory.
yeah, so it's just to throw in abuse of the ref to get an 11. It's just unbelievable, that one.
Okay, well, there's your headlines. We've got coming back with what we can learn from round 15 of Super Rugby. Then we've got Keegan Kruger from the Punnets talking a whole bunch of football. But right now, we've got Blondie, Heart of Glass, High Pitch Tuesdays. It's going to be rocking after this. Sean, we're going to get into your feature of what we can learn from round 15 of Super Rugby. As always, you've got 5 marvelous insights. Please share them with us right now.
Sure, the first insight that I've got that we touched on earlier is that it looks like to me that the 3 guys leading the conference right now have pretty much secured the conference win, or at least the playoff spots in the top 4, let's say. They'll be in the semi-final spots. So you got the Chiefs. All of them had testing fixtures on the weekend. The Chiefs had the Crusaders, which was a massive game. That a lot of us picked the Crusaders to actually win it, even though the Chiefs were at home. But the Chiefs managed to pass that test and won, and extended their gap in the New Zealand Conference to 10 points, which is pretty much unassailable, almost mathematically now. The Brumbies passed their big test against the Blues, even though it was away at Auckland. That was a big performance. And the Bulls won the potential banana peel at the Shark Tank that we were talking about.
Yeah.
So now it's got to the stage where it's like round 15, and we've got all the winners set up pretty much. Okay, I know the Bulls and the Cheetahs is a big game this weekend.
Huge, yeah.
But
Massive.
if the Cheetahs win, they probably secure their spot into 4th. And then the Bulls and the Cheetahs will probably be secured in the top 4. And if the Bulls win, well, then that's the conference all wrapped up
Exactly.
then. So it's pretty much, as we said, it's really just been a big division of the kind of the big boys and the spoilers at the moment. And that's just entrenched that this weekend.
Yeah.
And so it just goes to think, a month just before the international break, this is round about the time now when the Super 14 schedule will end. It says Super 14, Super 12.
Yeah.
And we've already seen, and the cream has already risen to the top. And we've got, when it comes to the top teams, now we've got to play, these teams have to play out just what order they're in. Is it not an even better argument to say that league
Great.
stage should be done now?
That's a really great point, Sean. I think everybody knows it's too bloated. Everybody wants to come up with a system of we must change this, we must do this. But I think your point is the most pertinent right there. We don't need an extra long thing. The cream rises to the top. We don't need to give it. We're not slow brewing here.
We've got a month of tests coming up,
Exactly.
and then like 3 or 4 rounds after that, just to kind of ascertain the order of these guys, which granted could well change. It'll be a little bit of a tussle at
but
top who's
still,
going to get home semis and stuff, but still, really.
I think when it comes to actual championship winners, I don't think it's going to change that much.
Yeah, because interestingly enough, I found like with all the criticism of the tournament, I think credit where credit's due. I really do think that this year's Super Rugby across the board has been a higher standard than last year's.
Well, sure, I'd like to say yes and no, but I haven't watched enough of it to really care because I have just been kind of pushed away from it.
I think so. Look, if you look
This
at
weekend's fixtures being an example.
Yeah, as it gets to this stage, one thing that's going to happen as soon as there's a few teams that now you hit the weeks where teams are definitely out of contention, and then like home fans, and then it'll be fixtures like fixtures now held at Newlands or at the Shark Tank. Now the home fans know that the teams aren't in playoff contention, so they're less inclined to go. It's you know, you can accuse them of being a fair weather thing, but it's a reality. You know, to get more than 20,000 at these grounds, it deadens the atmosphere quite a bit. And that's going to crop up a little bit more now, which is a result, a disease of having a bloated tournament at the end. As soon as you figure out that your team's out of contention, now you've got like 6 weeks or 7 weeks to deal with the tournament just dragging on.
Well, it's dragging on. I think that the crowds at Kings Park and Loftus have been the most worrying for me. You can understand Newlands being quite quiet on the weekend. They're not going through a good patch right now. But Kings Park, I know they're also going through a bad patch, but still.
It's a Bulls game. It's a huge derby, you know.
It's massive. There were guys with face paint on in the crowd. Come on.
Yeah, we had to focus. There was a lot of face paint here. But anyway, there's the point being. The cream has already risen to the top, and possibly we don't need a longer tournament. We could just hit the playoffs right now. But we kind of, as the Sansa will tell you, the satellite dish sales say no. Now, the second point I'm going up to, the Cheetahs, which we've alluded to earlier, but looking at the Cheetahs the last 2 weeks, it looks like they're getting used to playing with expectation of playoff hopes.
Yeah, you touched on this slightly a few weeks back as far as how, they always had one thing to do. Play like you had nothing to lose.
Absolutely. Looking at that perennial underdog tag, kind of, it gives them more freedom to express themselves. And like they'd express themselves, but it would make them a little bit leaky at the back and concede a few points. You know what you got with the Cheetahs, but like playing with expectation, speaking with respect, wasn't one of them in the history of this tournament.
Well, they had no experience in doing so.
Yeah, so now they got into a scenario this way where they were just like more than halfway through the tournament in the playoff contention. Suddenly they were playing like they had something to lose. And then we went through 2 weeks where it looked like that they were playing with inhibition. Like against the Kings, which is a game they dominated in Bloemfontein, they looked like that they should finish them off and get the bonus point, which could well be key in playoff fixtures. But they weren't able to do it. They ended up finishing off a dour game of rugby. The Cheetahs were unable to just kill the team off as a sign of like teams that really should be in the playoffs. And then the next week they played a real mismatch of tactics against the Hurricanes at home and lost a game that they really should have won. It was kind of a real max between a running game and a kicking game. It wasn't quite sure. They didn't seem sure what to do.
That particular match was a game of two halves, wasn't it?
It was a game of two halves, as Arnold would say. So Arnold, listen to the show. He should. He gets so much love on the show, Arnold gets.
Yeah, I know. Jeez, okay.
And rightly so, Arnold.
Rightly so. Sean, lovely point. What's your next one?
My next one is, we are close to confirming the Kings being in the relegation playoff. It's been fun, but I think we're close to almost mathematically confirming this. No one's begrudging how well they've made the transition into Super Rugby, and considering they only had 6 months' notice, it's incredible that they've probably already done enough to avoid the wooden spoon. But it looks like it's looming, almost mathematically speaking now, that they're going to be bottom of this conference and they have to deal with the relegation playoff.
Look, it's just like watching those movies where the geeky guy's not actually going to get the girl. Although some stupid movies that changes up nowadays. But yeah, you're right.
But now, so like, let's say, and it's not a done deal, but let's say that they lose against the Stormers at Newlands on the weekend. Then that's pretty much mathematically done and dusted that they're done. They still got 3 games left of this tournament after the international break, before the relegation playoff, without really anything to play for, if you think about it, in the tournament itself. Should they not think about resting players for the relegation game, which will be a scenario which no other team has had?
Sean, you made this point, actually, I think even pre-tournament. You said that these guys are going to give everything they've got, no matter what happened. Those last few games, they're going to basically rest players, because there's no point running yourself into the ground just to become easy meat for the Lions.
I would agree with Alan Solomons and Matt Sexton if they did. If
completely.
They did, there might be a little
Nobody
bit of
could begrudge them in doing so.
And their last games are derbies. There's a game coming up at Loftus that the Kings have to go to. That's be the one game that affects playoff spaces. I would love to see if the Kings run out a second team there and get a hiding. There'll be a lot of whining coming out of New Zealand and Australia.
I tell you what, Sean, I would love that to happen.
You want that to happen because you think the 100 points will come up.
Make it happen, Alan.
So maybe it might not go on. And Alan Solomons does have a history of resting players. For those with long memories will remember that he played a second-string team in Dunedin in 1999 that got thrashed in the year of the Men in Black Stormers when they first reached their home semi, that Bob Skinstad team. but there was a tactical resting of players for the greater good. He even did it this year to an extent. There was a Super Rugby warm-up game against the Lions, which everyone was seeing as, it was a hostile affair because, of course, the way the Kings replaced the Lions, they were looking for bragging rights at that tournament. And Alan Solomons, rested players. And I think it was not so much to rest players. It was just a case of like, A, I'm not going to reveal everything we have. And B, I just don't want to get torn up into this hostile affair. I'll save it to kind of build up the rest of my squad, but I'll save the big boys for later.
Yeah,
I think
makes sense.
I think you're going to see some weaker teams coming out of the Kings.
I tell you what,
I wouldn't blame them if they did.
When was it last year when the Stormers started off so well? They were doing, okay, I know, look at me hopping back to a better time. They did so well. Then they had a couple of injury niggles, and they had to go play the Crusaders away. They were never going to win that game. I think we all knew that. They ended up losing it, and they also ended up losing Dwayne Vermeulen and Andrew Specker on the same weekend, I think, for lengthy spells.
I think you're right, yeah.
Not hard to work out. You don't have to win every game. And, it's not exactly like an ego contest. Someone's going to say, oh, it wasn't your best team. It's like, yeah, it's a tournament that goes for like 6 months. What do you want?
Exactly. I think, look,
I'm timing my run. You're supposed to say what you want.
The team that's rotated, the South African team that's rotated that plays the best this year has been the Bulls.
Yeah.
And they're top of the log. And look where they are. The team that rotated the best last year were the Sharks, and they ended the tournament the best.
Yeah.
It speaks for itself, guys.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
we're going to buff this bang wave every year, it seems.
Yeah.
Next point. The Highlanders might not just win the wooden spoon this year. They might take it in style.
Yeah, well, the Force gave it to them on both cheeks in the weekend, which is quite funny. That game was hilarious.
It was hilarious.
I said on Twitter, it was like watching two car guards fighting over a 5-rank coin in Hillbrow. That's exactly what it was. It was just fun. It was fun to watch.
And the way they lost it, the Highlanders, is just so quintessentially Highlanders this year.
Exactly. It's a team with no soul.
All the games have been pretty close. Unlike the Blues last year, they were getting hammered a lot of the time and then got a couple of wins near the end of the season to make the log look a little more palatable. These guys just seem to lose every close game. They were up. I think they were 2 points up with a man in the sin bin having slotted the penalty. Then there was an awful Ronan O'Gara-esque late tackle for a penalty in front for the Force. And that was it. Game over. Done. Unbelievable. But anyway, looking at the numbers for them, I just wanted to compare them with... I wanted to compare this Highlanders vintage with other teams that have finished bottom of the table. Mm-hmm. And it really doesn't come across as good reading. A team that we all thought could well be in playoff contention, maybe even in contention to win their conference this year. It's amazing. Has there been a bigger discrepancy between preseason expectations and your actual season reality than the Highlanders this year? I looked at, so comparing it with teams of the past. Now, it's hard to compare. It's not simple to compare it statistically with other teams because the format has changed, the tournament down the years. It's been Super 12, it's been Super 14, there's been different, there's been a different amount of fixtures each time, so a different amount of points. So instead of just comparing the points, I just took it one step further and I compared the points average with everyone, the amount of log points you get per game. I thought that would be fair, excluding the bye points that you get, obviously. And the Highlanders, for those who want to know, have an average of 0.75 log points per game, which is not good, which currently puts them fourth last of all time.
Of all time.
Of all time.
Wow, look at you and your statsgasm, Sean.
What a statgasm, everybody. For those of you that do want to know, the three lowest teams were the 2010 Lions, who went through an entire season with just 5 points. And in 2002, we had the Bulls, who went through the whole season without a win, and the Cats, who went through the season with 1 win against the Bulls.
Those were dark days in that Australia era. Huh?
That's the thing. We can criticize Australia in the past, but boy, he didn't have a lot to work with in 2002. Wow. Anyway. But also, not only we've spoken a lot about Bucky's Boyta and Donnie Rousseau recently and all that they've won, and how they've now added the Heineken Cup to their success in the World Cup and Super Rugby, and a couple of other domestic titles, of course. And Brad Thorne is very similar to that bracket. And he could well join that elite club by adding the wooden spoon of Super Rugby this year.
Everyone's got a kitchen.
Yeah, everyone's got a kitchen.
And final point, Sean, moving into it.
John Kerwin's halftime team talks are the only reason to have cameras in the change room.
I feel I missed out by not seeing this.
It was amazing. Look, initially, that's been one of my pet bugs. I would have talked about it more had it not been for me getting carried away with the halftime interview this year, which is the biggest scourge in Super Rugby. But not far behind is the cameras in the changing room that you see before the game and for a little bit of halftime. For starters, it looks so invasive to me. I can't see a coach being comfortable with having cameras in there. Secondly, there's such arb footage every time. You just see a couple of players sitting around.
It's almost as arb as Joel sniffing jock straps pre-game in the change rooms.
Yeah, and you just see them sitting around picking up a Powerade, drinking it or so. What is this TV? I thought it was ridiculous. But then seeing the Blues in the midweek, where the Blues were 14-0 down at halftime against the Brumbies, and John Kerwin went absolutely off. Just total mayhem there. Eyes were bulging, the chest was pumped. It was fantastic TV. It was some of the best thing I've seen for a while, quite frankly. I reckon if they went for 2 minutes more, you'd see half the Blues players change their shorts.
I tell you what, Sean, and this might happen. The moment you see a sponsors board go into a change room, I tell you what, the coach will be on a bit of money there. Okay, go G your players up. Come on. I've got this big banner next to the bottles.
That'll be it. So keep your eye out for that. Otherwise, I want that to go. So it's the only redeeming feature of cameras in the change room for me. John Kerwin's halftime team talks. As Alex Ferguson retires and his famous hairdryer, watch out for John Kerwin's team talks. They're going to be a thing of legend, I tell you. Legend.
Right. Well, Sean, speaking of things of legend, we're going to come back with High Pitch Tuesday songs with none other than... Oh, yeah. Bee Gees, High Pitch Tuesday. Thanks so much, Sean. Catch that post in its entirety on the bounce.co.za. We're coming back with Keegan Kruger after this with all kinds of football. But first, the Bee Gees. Gotta ask the question, did he sing like that because of his pants, or did he just have a very high voice?
I think it's a little from column A, a little from column B.
A little bit of both. Anyway, speaking of high-pitched voice, this man does not have one. Keegan Kruger, how you doing?
How's it, guys?
Yes, we
Finally hear you.
Yeah, nice one. So,
We're
Keegan...
working today.
Slick operation.
Keegan, going forward, Sean and I have got a bit of a worry. Can we keep you on in the down season? Is there enough football to talk about?
We are discussing this on air. That's harsh on the man.
Yeah, I know. That's a serious reaction.
Well, I hope so.
Okay.
Well, it's called the silly season, so there's plenty of rumours going around until the season actually starts.
It's true. A lot of transfer gossip.
Yeah, see, this is
Do
when...
you like a bit of gossip on
This
the
is
show?
when football becomes a little bit too E-channel for me, for my liking.
This is better than the actual sport itself. What are you talking about?
Rife
That's what
speculation.
it's all about.
Okay, well, Keegan, we have to start off with Crystal Palace, the £120 million game, as they call it. Is that
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Biggest, what's it? Sort of the biggest game in world football, they like to call it.
Financially, yeah. Bigger than
Financially,
Champions
yeah, it was a great spectacle. Unfortunately, I never got to see the goal towards the end. I had to go and coach, but it was brilliant. I watched the first half, and it was absolutely amazing. The game was fast-paced. It was up and down. It was a sunny Wembley for a change, and yeah, it was actually good. Some good talent out there. It's a pity that Watford didn't automatically make it into the Premiership. I actually would have liked them to be up there, probably instead of a Cardiff or a Hull City. But yeah, it was good.
I'm with you. Less Welsh. It's the English. It's the British English. I get that.
10th Welsh next year. Next season will be the Premier League. That's always the thing with the playoffs, isn't it? The idea that you could finish third but still not be promoted. Like in a whole league system. Now, it's quite a fun occasion, the playoff thing. You see Wembley gets filled. 80,000 were at Wembley to watch a Watford Crystal Palace game.
So what? They had Champions League and then they had this.
Yep.
Ka-ching.
Absolutely. So, but it's quite an event that you'll take away if you put it from. So it's quite a debate. I'm not quite sure where I stand. I've had Wolves benefit from not being third and still get promoted, so I was all for it that year. But
It's a bit tough one. Yeah, I don't know if I really enjoy it or if I stand with it or if I don't like it. To be honest with you, it does bring a little extra dynamic to it, which is quite nice. Listening to you guys earlier, I actually do believe that this could actually work for Super Rugby as well. The whole concept, but yeah, I'm actually in two minds really about that whole, how to run really. But it's a good occasion. I mean, a lot of money is spent and a lot of money can be gained by a club, so it's a little bit of extra to it.
Yeah, one thing about it is that it always rewards the team that's in the best. Well, it doesn't always, but it's just you'd think it rewards the team in the best form at that moment of the playoffs. There's one thing to wake up with the playoffs, as opposed to who's performed over the entire season is the key point here that we're looking at.
Definitely, if you've performed over the whole season, you should be first. That's
it.
I always believe that. Or you're going to be unlucky and finish second, and you're still going to get automatic sort of promotion spot. But third place, sometimes, as we see, it's not always the best side. It's not always the side that's played sort of consistent football that ends up third.
How fun would this be in the Premier League if we did it for Champions League spots?
Say
Or
the first,
say the first 3 get automatic Champions League spots, and for the 4th you bail it out.
Oh wow!
I
So
don't
now,
think
so now
guys
we,
like Ben would be interested
no,
in that
well,
because
of course
Arsenal
not,
would
because
probably.
take that back. It just means Spurs will get their heart broken in like a different format. It's not very nice.
That's
Keegan,
a rough one, yeah.
So apparently, okay, correct me if the stats are wrong, but of the 21 teams that have gone up of late, 12 have gone straight back down, and 9 have survived. What do you think of the chances of someone like Crystal Palace? Because they have a huge like football heritage as far as they were really good back in the day, like in the 90s, I think, early 90s, 80s. Is it a team that can now sustain their spot on the top flight?
I think they can. They play attractive football. The only problem is, can they keep hold of some of those players? We already
Yeah.
Wilfred Zaha signed for United already in January.
But might even be on loan again for the season, I hear.
And Man United sent him back on loan there to help them gain promotion. So if United decide to keep him, we'll take him and then I think they'll struggle a little bit, especially in that role. And then there's other players going around. I mean, there's a few guys that have really put up their hands and have looked good. We've got our own South African in midfield there, which KG will love to play back in the Premiership again.
He's a commentator's dream, that guy. They're going to love him in England. Well, they've already had him. He's been up with Fulham before, but hear an English commentator get their mouth around Kagiso Dikashwa.
Good old Dikachoy. as we sort of get, we'll be hearing the rest of the English season. But I think they play a good brand of football. Holloway's never really been the defensive-minded manager.
Yeah.
I think you could see Hull City probably go back down. They're very defensive-minded. I don't think that's going to end well to them. And I actually see 1 or 2 Premiership sides, we can sort of say established Premiership sides. They've been 8 seasons in the Prem. Like, I really think Sunderland's not out of trouble, and I really don't. And I think Stoke could be one that could be going down with Tony Pulis gone.
Definitely,
I agree. There. Keegan, moving on to Champions League. Obviously, we all called Bayern Munich. It wasn't the toughest call to make, but still a close match in the end there.
Close match. I felt it was always going to be a three-goal game. Just, you can't really put your finger on which side is going to go, or which side is actually going to go on and win it. That first half was probably the Manuel Neuer show. He made some wonderful saves in that first half. You'd probably think after watching that first half, Dortmund, if they carry on bombarding Munich, they will come up with a goal and they probably will go on and take it. And the second half, we saw a different Bayern Munich side come out. They sort of they kept the ball better. They made Dortmund move. They bombarded the flanks. They came up with that first goal, and I know I think it was 6 or 7 minutes later they gave away a penalty. But for me, it felt like Dortmund went into a little bit of a shell, and Bayern sort of decided, well, this is our occasion, and they took it at the end. And I've been slated for saying this, but they've honestly been the best European side over the last 2 years. That's for sure.
Oh, without doubt, yeah.
No, definitely. No, definitely. Keegan, now Bayern Munich are going to be linked with, already are. They've done a deal with some of the Borussia Dortmund players already. There was that chap that missed the final, Götze, I think his name is.
Yep, Mario Götze has already signed. That's signed, sealed, delivered. And he will be off to Munich. And
it looks like they might make a move on that striker that was so impressive, Lewandowski.
Apparently he's in talks with Bayern Munich, but there's a few other clubs reportedly also trying to go after him. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. You got to understand, Munich already have a Mario Gomez. They have Mandzukic. Lewandowski is very much the same type of striker. Does he go there and fight it out with 2 other similar strikers and the potential of not starting every game, or does he go to a side where he walks into a starting place and establish himself? So that's quite interesting to see what happens from there.
Yeah.
Okay, well now let's talk about all that speculation and hype and that e-channel crap that's now going to take over football. What's happening with Bale? Any news on that?
Apparently,
any news that hasn't come from the Sun?
Last thing I heard, because Neymar has signed for Barcelona, which the Brazilian wonder kid who or sort of Madrid and Barcelona have been fighting over.
I don't know, Keegan. He looks too skinny for the top stuff.
He's got the hair for the top stuff.
He's got the hair for it.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's got the feet for it too, but he looks like he weighs about 48.
Listen, I'm one of those skeptics who I say is very, very overrated. But we'll wait and see. I don't think he's even close to a Messi or a Cristiano Ronaldo. So that'll be interesting to see how he copes in the big leagues. Since Madrid lost out on him, they apparently splashing money. There's a 65 million bid for Bale that they're going to go in for, and we could see. Who was the other one? There was another 40 million. Oh, it was Luis Suarez. They want to throw 40 million at him to see if he'll come across. So that's quite interesting. Falcao, who's the Atletico Madrid striker, he's been reported to have been signed for, or is reported to sign for Monaco for something stupid, something 70 million. So that's quite interesting.
You hear these numbers these days, it's ridiculous.
No, the money is absolutely ridiculous. And the one thing that's quite interesting to see is Jose Mourinho has said he will not be at Real Madrid next season.
Yeah. Yet,
we do not know where he's going. And everyone says, I know it's on everyone's lips, it's got to be Chelsea.
Oh.
But don't you think that deal would have been done already and it would have come out if it was Chelsea?
Yeah, I don't know. It's this guy. I'm sure has his own press PR machine working overtime to announce these things at the right time for him.
Is there any chance that there's a and because there's so many managerial merry-go-rounds that's going to happen this summer? Well, the summer in England. I know Manuel Pellegrini looked odds on to be the Manchester City manager.
I think that's going to still happen.
Is that still? Because that's been slow to be confirmed as well. I don't understand why there's so much stalling over this, to be honest.
That's the thing. It seems to be all the La Liga, because I think there's one more game left in La Liga, and
that's right.
And I think all the fireworks is going to happen as soon as that last game finishes. Okay. We'll probably see where everyone's going. But I've got a feeling that Pellegrini that's done deal to City, and he's already have a few players that have said they're willing to follow him wherever he goes. So the one interesting thing is Monaco sitting with a billionaire at the moment with the open position. PSG is also sitting with a billionaire with open positions because Ancelotti seems pretty destined that he wants to go to Madrid. And you've got Chelsea, which is very quiet at the moment. And I know the Chelsea fans are thinking, Jose's in the bag, it's done and dusted. But I think there could be a little twist to the tail there.
I'm thinking there might be drama too.
Yeah, there's always drama. Anyway, Keegan, that's probably enough football for this week until we have some actually more concrete stories. Look, it's gonna be a fun feature for the next few weeks because obviously we haven't got the sort of mainstream stuff to call upon. So we're hoping and we're praying that on your shoulders you can come back with some absolute peaches in the transfer market. You know what, Keegan? If you want to make it up, that's fine. Just go for it.
We'll get an e-news backtrack on the show. We'll embrace it.
Could we make our own ITK agent Twitter account we can make our own rumors?
Yeah, go for it.
What are you talking about? I already have.
Oh, you're the one sending those things around.
Yep, that's me. I don't hear about Mourinho.
Anyway, if you want to catch more of Keegan on Twitter at Keegan Kruger and of course the pundits.co.za. Keegan, thanks so much for joining us as always.
Thanks for having me, guys.
We're going to play out with The Darkness. I believe in a thing called love. I don't know if this should go to you, but you can have it. Catch you back next week, Keegan. Thanks so much.
Cheers, lads.
Cricket, and more crickets. That's coming up in the second hour. We got Dennis from Down Under, alt cricket, and a bit of sport Billy. So the high-pitched nature just keep coming. That was The Darkness. Haven't heard that in a long time. Reminds me of my much younger days. So Sean, first hour pretty much done. We got rid of the football. Not a lot going on there at the moment, huh?
Never is really.
That's why I'm so glad that we at least have Keegan. Okay, so we're going to talk Champions Trophy. Now, at the beginning of the show, we had a rather difficult trivia question. Well, it isn't unless you know what Crick Info is. Of course, ESPN Crick Info is, I think, probably pound for pound the best sporting website there is. If you like cricket, it's brilliant. If you like stats, you can get them in a jiffy.
I can't disagree with that. My favorite.
It really is good. It's got everything. I think it's also got like on the Richter scale, how annoying Danny Morrison is. I'm pretty sure they got a stat for that as well. So our question today to you was, how many South African bowlers, how many Proteas bowlers, or all-rounders, get technical if you want, how many Proteas players have taken 5-wicket hauls in Champions Trophy matches? And the answer is... I knew this. I just really wanted to make a paper rustle sound. Anyway, we've had 3 bowlers. 3 bowlers have done it. Mackay and Tini took 5 for 21 versus Pakistan back in 2006. Jacques Callisis took 5 for 30 versus the West Indies in 1998. And Sean, that was the final, you told me.
That was the final, and it's still his best bowling analysis in one-day cricket, and it probably will stay that way.
Yep, for those of you who might be mistaken, we have actually won that big trophy. It was in 1998, thanks to Jacques Callis' 5 for 30. And the one that most people didn't get, well, I'm not surprised, really. Wayne Parnell, he got 5 for 57 versus New Zealand in 2009. Congrats to Brad on the Twitter, you were very quick with that. 3 bowlers have taken 5-wicket hauls. Right, so we're going to get into Champions Trophy. What we're going to do now is try bring in our Australian analyst. Bear with me. So Sean, basically, it starts June the 6th. We can celebrate the fact that the IPL is now done and dusted, and we're going into some more sort of proper cricket, so to speak.
Yeah. I'm not, most of us aren't too much fans of T20 cricket in itself. We're more a fan of the cut and thrust, chess-like nature of the 50-over stuff.
Yeah.
At least they kept the coloured clothing, keep the purists happy. But yeah, it should be. The ICC is quite a cool tournament actually in terms of its format. It makes a whole lot more sense than the World Cup most of the time. It excludes some of the minnows.
Yeah.
And it's just 2 groups of 4 of the top 8 teams, the 8 top Test playing countries.
Because when the Champions Trophy started, it was some of those non-Test nations in there as well.
They've juggled a few formats in the past before. I think when it started, it was just a straight knockout between the 8 top teams. But I remember in England a while ago, in 2004, the ICC Trophy, the West Indies one, there was a whole bunch of minnow sides. It was a weird format of tournament, like something stupid, like 6 groups of 3 or something nuts, or 5 groups of 3. You'd have teams like the USA getting thrashed by Australia. I remember vaguely in my head. But they've now settled on this format being the top 8 sides, 2 groups of 4. Top 2 make the semi-finals, which is just
great. That's what you want.
Yeah.
Cut them through us, quick in and out, get the thing over with. Let's get a champion.
Get the best playing the best immediately, as opposed to something like the World Cup, where if you look at the last format, which was awful 2 years ago, where you'd have 2 groups of 7.
It was like a like a cricketing fair, like with just onwards.
For the right to make the quarterfinals, so you'd have like the top 8 teams put in 2 different groups for the right to make the quarterfinals. Basically, it was like a 2-month tournament where we had a month where the first month was just to figure out whether Bangladesh would make an upset or not. That was essentially all it was.
So true. Yeah. That's all it was.
And then they didn't, so we had the 8 that we were expecting in the first place in the quarterfinals.
If it wasn't for England just being clowns and losing to Ireland or whatever and then beating someone of note like us, the tournament would have been so dead boring. I think it really was dead boring because the players even get bored. They're there for so long. It's just...
No, absolutely. While I do like the World Cup to have a couple of minnows in it, because we do want to give it a chance for an upset, you don't want it too drawn out. Yeah. And you want the top teams to have something on the line to play, and not just against the minnows.
Well, exactly. But the thing about the Champions Trophy here, we've had 6 playings of it. Started in '98, like I said earlier. SA1. Guys, unfortunately, we don't have Dennis from Down Under connecting with us on the Twitter, so bear with us while we try to do this in the background. We're going to try to bring our other analyst in here. We've got 2. That's always a good thing about having 2. Anyway, so it's first played in '98. And we won that one. SA won it. Congratulations. Still our only proper trophy.
Yeah. It's quite interesting when you look at the team. It's very, very different. Hey?
Yeah, you were telling me. Who opened the batting in those days?
Mike Grindle and Daryl Cullinan opened the batting in those days.
Mike Grindle, a left-hander with the sort of old Bieber hairstyle.
Oh, yes.
He was a legend.
Legend himself, yeah.
And Daryl. I've got lots of friends, Cullinan. And then in 2000, New Zealand won it.
Yeah, that was in Kenya.
Yeah. I think it was a Nairobi Sports Club and Spa, I think that's the final there. And then 2002, it was played in Sri Lanka.
Yes, it was. You're right.
And there was tax implications here. That's why I got moved towards the end. Like, really weird story. Anyway, it gets weirder. India and Sri Lanka were champions that year because they tried to play the game twice, and both times they got rained out.
Yeah, it's a bit It's one thing with cricket. It's always a bit lame when you can't get the final together of a tournament because of rain.
Yeah. So anyway, and then in 2004, the West Indies won it.
Yeah, that was in England. They beat England in the final. For those of you that remember, there was a big last wicket partnership in the end. West Indies were all down and out.
The West Indies are pretty much all down and out. I think the journalists were already kind of putting down their England best in the world, as they love to do at any given chance.
Yeah, it was dark. I think they needed like 40 to win. Carl Bradshaw was playing with someone. I think they were offered the light, which was ridiculous. It just shows you how silly cricket can be sometimes. I think they were offered the light, didn't take it, obviously.
Yeah, it was
and
ridiculous. And then in 2006, this is where the Aussies, well, we all know the Aussies are kind of unbeatable in the one-day format. They won it in 06, and then they won it again in 09.
Yeah, and
the kind of invincible period they were in the one-day format.
Yeah, and the 09 was here, of course. It's the one thing, you look at this tournament, and we see it as an important tournament because, of course, we've got such a hoodoo on our heads about how we perform and how we choke in ICC tournaments and World Cups, etc. You know, that they're always going to live with this label until they get a World Cup win together, in my opinion. And South Africans always look at this tournament to see, like, well, we must go out and win tournaments like this in good preparation for the World Cup. But history shows that unless you're Australia in the noughties and are winning everything, that rule really didn't apply when it came to it. So this is a tournament in itself, I reckon.
Yeah,
it's quite it's a worthwhile tournament. I think it's quite a cool tournament when it comes to one-day cricket.
I'm still a fan of the one-day game. I think it has taken a huge bit of stick from people who just don't have the patience for it. And of course, there have been some boring matches. And I think you get those lulls. They've had to implement power plays and all that kind of stuff. And yes, it doesn't help in the World Cups like longer than Super Rugby. But I still think the greatest game of cricket I ever watched obviously was that 4-3-8 game because it had so many twists and turns and it was just the right length where a team could be completely out of it, but then again, they were still able to do the impossible in order to win it. And that's why I think it's a very good balanced format.
I think that's the thing, is that partnerships can build in it. Bowling spells can happen in it. There's still much of a match narrative where it resembles a cricket match.
Exactly. It's like watching Ben-Hur, but just taking an hour off the top. It's still worth watching.
What a wonderful analogy.
No, it's more like watching Dr. Zhivago, but just less sad and like an hour off the top. Anyway, we're having a bit of a problem getting our analyst in right now, so we can take another song in our amazing playlist. It's High Pitch Tuesdays here today. I tell you who goes high pitch often, JT. We're having some troubles here. Live radio at its best. But Sean, we're pros. We've done at least 13 shows. We know what to do.
At least.
Yes. Okay, we've got Nishan Joshi from Alt Cricket. He'll be our next guest lining up. We're just waiting for him to get back to us. Sadly, no Dennis from Down Under, but we will have him back. We will definitely have him back. Of course, he made a great debut on the show. Very big fan of Sachin Tendulkar and the DRS and all other good things. Every cricket analyst should be. So, Sean, Champions Trophy, here we are. We just gave this sort of brief intro of who's done well. Just a couple of stats. Again, we do like our stats on the show, and there's a very good reason for it, because everything we do, we'd like you to share with your friends, family, close ones, people you dislike, whoever you want to kind of sound intelligent with. And stats are great things because you can look at something and go, did you know that guy, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I know, we're all very closet anorakish in this show. Most runs, Sean, scored in the Champions Trophy. Who do you think it is?
In history, I don't know that.
It is, he's played 14 matches.
Yeah.
He does not have a Champions Trophy winner's medal.
Ooh, there's an interesting one. So that rules out for you, yeah?
At least I don't think he does. Maybe. Anyway, it's Chris Gayle. Chris Gale's got the most runs in the Champions Trophy. He's got 695 runs. SA's best? None other than J.H. Cullis, no doubt.
Yeah, he would be the best in a lot of these lists.
Yeah.
So.
He scored 653 runs. He's from 17 matches. Sadly, he's not going to be going to this Champions Trophy because he could be the greatest Champions Trophyist of all time.
He could be.
Yeah, but so be it. Anyway, most wickets Champion Trophy with 17 matches is Murali from Sri Lanka. He got 24 wickets. SA's best, Sean? Any guesses?
Ntini, possibly?
No, it's that man Cullis again. 20 wickets, wow. 17 matches. Most sixes in the Champions Trophy.
Most sixes in the Champions Trophy.
Guess.
Total.
Left-hander.
I don't want to say Chris Gale again. That just seems not
incorrect.
Gilchrist?
Nope. Saurav Ganguly, 17 sixes.
Ganguly with the most sixes. Holy smoke.
Highest for SA?
I'm going Cullis again.
It is. It's Jacques Cullis with 9 sixes. Oh,
Six machine Jacques Cullis.
He really does do it all. This man is amazing. Most hundreds, well, we've also got a guy in there, Herschel Gibbs, with 3. That is the most. He shares that with Gale and Ganguly. So, yeah, Champions Trophy, obviously we're going back to the 50 over sort of match, 50 over game. Just as you were saying, 8 teams. What do you reckon the big chances are? Who are the big favourites? And of course, obviously we've got to enter our own names into that, even though this time round, a lot has been said that we go in there with no sort of expectations.
Considering the conditions, I think we're in the toughest group. So, like, our group is South Africa, Pakistan, India, and the West Indies. And the second group is Australia, England, Sri Lanka, and New Zealand. Now, I don't think Sri Lanka and New Zealand are going to like playing in England this type of year that much. I'm not quite sure they have the team for the seaming wickets. So there's going to be a winner coming out of that group. I think it's going to be Australia and England. But as with one-day cricket with most of them, I think you look at our group, with the exception of possibly India's bowling, I think all these guys could be capable on their day of making an impression on English wickets. We saw Pakistan down here, and I know they've got a couple of high-profile guys missing, but they're always going to have the talent. I know they've got Shahid Afridi missing, who was dropped somewhat sensationally from their lineup. And I know Umar Gul is missing. That's going to be rough.
That's huge, yeah.
That is huge.
That's huge, because I remember even in the T20 played in that country, Allah helped him with in-swinging Yorkers, he said. So taking that out of the equation is massive.
It's big. But they do have Mohammed Irfan.
Yeah.
We had a brilliant tour down here, especially in the one-day stuff.
Completely unplayable at times, yeah.
I mean, he's always going to... I mean, when you bowl from that high, at that pace, you're always going to be a handful. People are always going to think they can get in the front foot to you. 2 deliveries that are going to end up being, chest high.
Yeah, he's got a bit of pace there as well.
So he adds in a variety that's going to be very, very dangerous to them. South Africa, when looking at our chances, we've just been up and down at best the last couple of years in this format of cricket. Even throughout the summer, of course, everyone wants to compare it with the test level, but with the test team, but you got to ignore that for a second. I mean, we lost the one-day series to New Zealand at home, which is very disappointing. And the home series against Pakistan was such a give-or-take thing. We were 1-0 up, 2-1-1, then to 2-1, then to 2-2, and then we took a 3-2. So there was no sustained period where, we couldn't string 2 wins together the whole summer, really.
Well,
so
Sean, I'm just going to stop you right there. You're making a very good point, but I think we got Nishant online. Nishant, can you hear us?
Yes, I am with you, Ben. Sorry.
Hello,
no, not James. You do more than one show, okay?
we were just recording radio cricket and then...
Oh, crap, sorry. I know. We're meant to have Dennis basically telling us why Australia are not going to win this. And then, well, we've had a bit of a problem on Twitter and Skype today, so I hope we haven't taken you away from anything too pressing.
Not at all, Ben. It's a pleasure to be with you, as always.
Okay, brilliant. Well, Sean and I were just making the points about South Africa's chances in this tournament. Sean started off with very sort of, well, let's say moderate tone. Enthusiasm wasn't overly high. Just like to bring you in here as far as we've introed this whole piece by saying who's done really well, how Jacques Kallis has been the best South African in everything, from sixes hit to wickets taken. He's done everything. Of course, we don't have him this time round. What are your thoughts as far as just your initial favourites going into this?
I think that England probably go into the tournament as favourites. They are. Wow. I mean, obviously, it's home conditions for. It is home conditions for England, of course, but I think that South Africa go in as my second favourites. They definitely do have the sort of all-round talent to take advantage of the condition. I mean, obviously, bowling-wise, you've got players and more as South Africa's is probably the best in the world right now. And batting-wise, you've got plenty of experience there. You've got Amla and De Villiers there, and I think that really South Africa, this could be South Africa's tournament. I haven't been optimistic about chances previously, but I think this Champions Trophy, if they don't commit the infamous C word, which I won't air live on South African video, but if they don't commit that word, then I don't see any reason why they can't go to the finals or maybe even win it.
Well, it's interesting you say that they've got probably the best bowling attack around. I know because of English conditions, and yes, it's going to be cloudy, and the ball's going to be doing quite a lot. Obviously, the seamers come into it quite a lot, and I think if you've just come from the IPL, where you put your front foot forward and hope for the best, they could be penetrating. But there's always the question: do we have a spinner that's actually going to be what you need him to be in the one-day format?
I mean, to be honest, I'm not sure about whether not having a quality spinner is going to harm South Africa so much in this tournament. In previous tournaments, of course, in the subcontinent, they've probably been visibly hindered. I mean, if you look towards the last World Cup, they had a combination of Imran Tahir and Robin Peterson, and I mean, this year I would say it's definitely going to be more one of those tournaments where it's going to be dominated by seam and swing. So perhaps most spinners in most sides are pretty much only going to have a holding role anyway. So I wouldn't be too concerned if I were a South African fan.
Is that your way of saying Paul Harris has been unlucky not to crack the nod here?
Well, Paul Harris has been perennially unlucky, so yeah.
Okay, well, look, I would like to echo your sentiments about South Africa being quite good. I think the expectation is very low this time round.
It's lovely to speak to a neutral that's not jaded by a decade of heartbreak on this level.
There's also that. But now, you said England looking to be the favourites. Now, I just look at those guys mostly because they all have sort of the Afrikaans word for what their faces look like, but I'm going to try to keep it clean, plus you probably wouldn't understand it. But something to me just says that they haven't got that sort of real champion sort of like challenged to their game. What do you think is different about them right now?
I think that maybe someone like Alistair Cook and Andy Flower kind of, of course, Alistair Cook in particular. I mean, he's the guy who really epitomises England right now. He's brutally efficient and he's calm and collected as captain, and the whole sort of England side just it seems to be reflected in his image. And I think that they're very organised. I mean, last year they whitewashed Australia 4-0, I think, in the ODI series. I think it was this time last year, and they were very, very efficient in what they did. They weren't spectacular. They didn't really have many standout players, but they played very well together as a team. And I think that's where England sort of could do really well here, because they know the conditions, they know not to aim too high, they know what will be a good score on most pitches. So I think home conditions in England will be a bigger advantage than home conditions in the subcontinent, perhaps.
That could well be the key point here, is identifying what are going to be the key targets here. You got a lot of teams that are going to go into it and are just so used to looking at like kind of, playing in conditions where they flirt with 280, 290, 300 plus and their 50 over scores. And they're going to have to deal with conditions where that is just not going to be a realistic goal in some of these things.
Well, and disappointment of rain. I think England's, very adverse kind of on top of that. But now, on the batting front for England, Kevin Peterson, the injury cloud still over him. Is he going to be able to make it?
No, I think Kevin Peterson has been ruled out.
Okay. So, who's going to come in and kind of fill that void? Because in the one-day game, you definitely need someone who's going to be as brash and sort of up front as that guy is, going into the sort of swinging ball and the conditions we've spoken about.
Yeah, well, to be honest, Ben, I don't think that that type of side anymore. I mean, I think that's what's kind of hindered them in the subcontinent previously. I mean, they've got players like Alistair Cook, who's never really going to score at a huge strike rate, but he's going to keep things ticking. They've got some dynamic players, though. They've got someone like Owen Morgan, who, of course, can play shots all around the ground. He can play all these different types of creative shots as well. And then they've got Joss Butler, who's been a player that I've been really for quite a while now. He's a big hitting wicket keeper. He's an excellent fielder as well. If England find they've already got someone, and he's that type of finisher, the type of I've really seen a very good temperament in Joss Butler, and I think that he could be one of the standout players this tournament. They've also got Joe, who of course just scored his Test century at Headingley a couple of days ago, and he's pretty much been referred to as the next big thing in English cricket. And then of course it wouldn't be the England side without one of your boys, and I think we'll be having Jonathan Trott probably coming in at number 3.
God, so you've got a reincarnated Kepler Vessels with a border collie hairstyle, Jonathan Trott, and a couple other guys. Yeah, I'm not thinking about this favourite tag so firm anymore.
Joss Butler is one player to look out for, definitely. I mean, we saw the wrath of Joss Butler seeing South Africa tour in England last year. In some of the one-day games of the T20, there was some heavy hitting at the end there that looked ominously and dare I say un-English of teams that are going to buy. Don't remember too many teams at the death punishing at us that much with lower order batsmen. It was usually like Kevin Peterson, who'd batted through, might do it.
Well, in recent years, bringing in someone with a girl's name has definitely helped. I mean, Jade Dernbach was pretty decent with the ball. Is he still in the mix for this team of favourites that we speak of?
No, I think Jade Dernbach was dropped a pretty disastrous
I've really got to read more.
India earlier on in the year, and I think he finished with, if my stats brain can recall correctly, I think that he's actually now got the most expensive economy rate for any ODI bowler in history.
I'm sure he's right.
Has someone taken over Mick Lewis? Really? Surely Mick's mantle has never been taken over.
Well, he's got the highest who's taken X amount of wickets. You're right, Nishant. I've read that recently.
Worst tattoos in it.
Yeah, or shirt size is too small as well. He's got the feeling with J2.
Yeah. Okay, so look, England definitely home conditions, good balanced side, some real exciting players. But what of India? India, the current world champion, so to speak, harbourers of the T20 smut. But what are they going to do in this tournament?
Well, I think that India are going to struggle, to be honest. I think they're my tip to kind of go out early, to be honest. And it's going to mainly be down to the IPL and the impact that side on the side. I don't think that India have really got the steel that they've had in previous years. I mean, if you even go back towards to the 2011 World Cup, which they won, you had someone like Sachin Tendulkar there as some serious steel. Now, in terms of openers, they've not really got many options. I mean, they've not even got Gautam Gambhir or Virender Sehwag. They've both been dropped. So, I mean, aside without Tendulkar, without Sehwag, without Gambhir, I mean, it's pretty much an unrecognisable Indian side from even a couple of years ago. And the batting really will be quite lightweight in these English conditions. I mean, you've got someone like Virat Kohli, who's been world class over the past couple of years. Yeah. But apart from that, you haven't really got anyone who's really given too much cause for optimism for Indian batsmen to do well in English conditions. And I think that the transition from IPL to England will really be a shock to the system for India. And I think probably best to not look past two players who I think are going to really struggle. If you look at Suresh Raina and Rohit Sharma, I mean, technique-wise, they're not really cut out to be playing in England kind of early season on pitches which might do a bit, which might swing and seam a bit. I think they're really going to struggle. And I think India, I think they're going to go out early, to be honest.
That is so nice that you did include the words early season after that. I'm pretty sure Sharma will always be 27 and then caught it long off no matter where he plays. Okay, so we're going to pass on India. Sean touched on the fact that Pakistan could well be a handful, despite not having the likes of Umar Gull. You know, you never know what you're going to get with those guys. They give it everything they've got. And they'd always had that sort of firepower, which they showed in glimpses recently against SA.
Yeah, I mean, Pakistan always be a dangerous side. Nobody really wants to face Pakistan, just because you never know what you can get with them, as you say. I mean, bowling-wise, they do have a brilliant lineup, as you probably saw during the South Africa series earlier on this year. I mean, they've got some really world-class bowlers. You've got someone like Abdur Rahman as a slow left-armer, and Syed Ajmal. And I mentioned earlier on that I don't think spin is going to have a huge part to play, but the thing is with these guys is that they're not huge spinners of the ball. And with boundaries generally a bit bigger in England as well, I think they're going to be the type of bowlers who keep the run rate to maybe about 4 and over, maybe a bit less even, and they're always going to do a very steady job for you. They're going to be very reliable. Then you look towards the bowling department. Junaid Khan, I think he's really world class. He's the closest thing we've seen come out of Pakistan to Wasim Akram, and I'm really excited about him. He's only 23 years old, even if you give or take a bit of the Pakistan passport age. So I mean, Junaid Khan, really fantastic prospect for Pakistan. And then you've got Mohammad Irfan, of course, the 8-foot tall man, tallest first-class cricketer in history. So yeah, I mean, Pakistan have a lot to offer, but it's just with the bat where I think that they're going to find it a bit difficult. So I think that Pakistan's batting probably not cut out for scoring 250 plus very regularly. I mean, they've got kind of stodgy batsmen, as you probably saw in the South Africa series. They're wildly unreliable, and generally they're not really got high strike rates either. I mean, they've got batsmen like Misbah-ul-Haq, Mohammad Hafiz as well, who are steady but unspectacular. So I can't see them winning the Champions Trophy, but they should be able to put up a good show for themselves.
Yeah, that's the thing with the side. Is one of the features of this South Africa-Pakistan series and the one-day stuff would be with Pakistan wins. It's more a measured approach with the chase. I think their 2 wins both came from chasing, both from very measured innings by Misbah ul Haq, chasing scores that weren't setting the world alight.
It comes from Misbah looking bored in the middle, the bowlers then looking bored, and then suddenly they get an over of 18 and they win the game.
Yeah, the death overs look like the middle overs for a while. It all blurs into one, and then 3 or 4 overs left, they get through without too much hassle. So they're a side that would just kind of maturely plod through.
Yeah.
But in terms of getting big totals on the board, Pakistan aren't really.
I think Pakistan are so good for the game of cricket. But now, what about the West Indies? Of course, they won the last T20 Hit and Giggle World Cup. They do have a couple of good players, but are they all playing for them? This is the big question, because these guys will then go and find, I don't know, if a Ouagadougou has a T20 league tomorrow, they might be able to get Gale rather than the national team.
Yeah, I mean, this is the sort of issue with the West Indies. I mean, for me, I think the big change, the kind of bizarre change that they brought in is they've replaced Darren Sammy as captain. They've replaced him with Dwayne Bravo, and I think that might kind of epitomise what the route that West Indies are going down. I mean, you talk about whether West Indies are all playing for the same cause, and the thing about Darren Sammy is that he actually got them all pull in the same direction for the first time in years.
Yeah.
I mean, he's. And talk about Pakistan and Misbah had a settling effect on Pakistan. Darren Sammy has been the type of guy who, without him, I think he was the sort of guy who plugged the leaks in the dam, and without him, we're going to see a lot of issues crop up.
And he showed such great captaincy credentials in the Big Bash as well, taking on Shane Warne. I mean, how can you drop this guy? On so many levels, that's a bad call. So
I think you probably maybe mistaken for Marlon Samuels.
Is that not the same guy? Oh, crap. Yeah, that's a Big Bash. Anyway, so we're looking at England, South Africa in with a shout. The big question is then Australia, with all their troubles and the fact that they're about to get in Ashes hiding by many counts. What are their sort of mindset going into this one, you reckon?
Yeah, well, I mean, the previous ODI assignment was against the West Indies in Australia a few months ago, and they did come out with a whitewash, I think. And Australia are looking quite an efficient side right now. They've got some very decent players. I mean, James, he was a standout bowler in the IPL, and I think he could really cause a lot of damage. You've got Mitchell Johnson, also probably the second most standout bowler in the IPL. He looks somewhere towards his best, and Mitchell Stark as well, who's probably the best of the left arm trio. So it'll be really interesting to see what sort of balance the Australians actually take into their side, because they've got 3 really almost world-class left-arm pace bowlers who can all bowl at 90 miles an hour or thereabouts, but they're probably only going to play maybe 2 of them, so it will be quite interesting to see which they go down. Batting-wise, they look slightly brittle to me. They've got players like Adam Burgess, Glenn Maxwell, Philip Hughes, probably not proven at the level, so it will be interesting to see how they fare.
Oh, great.
Yeah, spot on. Sorry, I just had to quickly type something. I was totally listening, I promise. Okay, so it starts June 6th. We are going to hopefully be able to bring you back to Sean sometime within the tournament, because there no doubt will be a couple of surprises. We haven't mentioned Bangladesh, because I think after years of just them getting way too much attention, I don't think they should get another 3 minutes here.
Well, secondly, they're not in it.
Aren't they?
Yeah.
So, there's a reason for this.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, well, good for the Champions Trophy for taking Bangladesh out of our radar. They're never going to win anything. Nishan, what have you written kind of late that we should be looking at on the site?
Well, recently, the world of the IPL, which has been quite popular. Also wrote a little bit of analysis on Asad Rauf and his mysterious disappearance from the IPL and the Champions Trophy. Actually, they've withdrawn him as umpire from the Champions Trophy, and nobody really knows why. We've only been making our best guesses as to why that might be, and there have been allusions, maybe aspersions being cast that he might be involved in something a bit untoward, but without a Pakistani umpire.
Yeah, that guy is. You just look at him and you just think he's a smarty old man, and then sadly the stories actually back it up. But still, no real loss. So you can catch Nishan on the Twitter at altcricket, ALT cricket, and then the website is the Alternative Cricket. What? Alternative Cricket.
AlternativeCricket.com.
Yeah. Okay, Nishan, you're still my favorite cricket writer. No offense to anyone else out there. There are many, many good ones, but we'll definitely have you back sometime soon. Thanks so much for taking your time out of your busy schedule in the Czech Republic. What else is on store for the afternoon today?
It will be a day. It will be a long slog at the hospital for me. Probably standing in on some surgery.
Okay, Doctor Alt Cricket. Cool, man. Thanks so much for joining us. We're going to get you back here quite soon. We're going to play out with a song for you. Today is High Pitched Tuesday, so all our artists have very high-pitched sort of sound. And this one from Queen kind of emphasizes that.
Is this the room? So you think you can stop me?
Okay, I'm going to cut you off there. That's a lot of high-pitchedness. Heads banging in the studio, and we have him back. We've got Sport Billy back on the show. Billy, you can hear us?
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen.
There we go, the greatest Skype line in the world from Neisner. But we've definitely missed you. It's been about 3 weeks, I think, since we've heard your dulcet tones here on the show. So quite nice to bring you back with some high-pitched music. I think that's what actually got you back.
Yeah, I mean, Queen's always been one of my favorites ever since I saw Freddie in a Sharks jersey.
I'm glad you didn't put a location to that. Yeah, so look, I think people have been asking, you've been off because the Sharks have been so bad, but I think that's a bit harsh. I think we all go through highs and lows, but let's be honest, you have had a bit of a break and it's been through a good time. Not so good for the Sharks. They're in the same boat as the Stormers, and I think those words alone make you sort of vomit a bit in the mouth.
Yeah, no, listen, the least said about the Stormers and the Sharks season, the better. So hopefully we can move along swiftly.
Yeah, catch you guys in the Curry Cup.
Swiftly we shall. We haven't done a sports willy in a while, but there's been a lot of willy behavior in the world of sports. Who have you got for us this week?
It was quite hard to whittle it down to 3 because there were quite a few contenders, and since we haven't done it, 1 or 2 of them, possibly could have come up in previous weeks. But the 3 I've got, I think, are all worthy. I know you've probably talked about him ad nauseum, and that's old Sergio. Sergio and his favorite dish, fried chicken.
Sergio Fuzzy Garcia.
Yeah, I mean, we all know Sergio has a bit of a chop, but he keeps proving it week by week. And I think it'll be quite interesting, when you think about how the Yankee crowds heckle him in the past. I think the next time he plays over there, he could be in for quite a surprise.
Well, I can't wait for the US Open. The US Open is going to be so good in so many things. It's probably the highest pressure tournament going in golf.
When's it start?
Ish. June.
Good enough for me.
Sure, I got proven in the last 20 minutes and my stats aren't what they could be today. I'm just going to go with yes.
And Sergio isn't known to have meltdowns, so I'm sure the crowd will take it easy on him over there.
Yeah, if he's worried about someone cheering the choice of Tiger, on the other side of the fairway, I think he has some bigger sort of fish to fry, chicken to fry in this tournament coming up.
Yeah, no, for sure. The old get in the hole chips might just be a couple of seconds early on Sergio's shots.
Well, as we saw in the Ryder Cup, it was get in the water on a completely land-based, no bunkers, nothing shot. Yeah, there's Yanks. Their class will show, which is fine because it's towards Sergio.
I think Sergio will get his own medicine. So that one's for Sergio, vote number 1. Number 2 was Sanzar themselves, because I see that they've slapped Graham Henry over the wrist about because he called it TMO blind. And I think in that way, I hope Sanzar doesn't check Twitter, because there are a couple of us that would be facing far worse sanctions.
Yeah, if there's mics in my lounge.
TMOs this season, a lot more than blind.
Yeah, I wouldn't be allowed to watch it if people were recording what I was saying about Sanzar most of the time.
Well, I always think that, again, they're a law unto themselves in this kind of thing. So if they don't like what you say, you get penalized and you get punished. There should be some sort of appeal where you can actually bring it up in video analysis. Look, Your Honor, can you not see? If your man cannot see something, he is therefore blind. I think the definition of the word.
There's overwhelming evidence. You wouldn't. I don't think you'd get too many objections if you looked at the actual video replay. That these guys must be visually impaired.
Yeah, has to be. Okay, so we've got Sanzar, we've got Sergio.
So we've got Sanzar for that whole rap. And then I think my personal favourite is Dylan Hartley.
Yeah, I was hoping he'd make it.
Who copped an 11-week ban and therefore misses the Lions tour that is due to start this week. I mean, just to put it into perspective, Dylan Hartley has been banned for 47 weeks over the last 6 years.
Wow.
This time it was for verbally abusing Wayne Barnes, and I think I might have worked out why, because as I'm sure you know, Dylan was born in New Zealand, and we
right,
know how
correct.
the Kiwis seriously don't like Wayne Barnes.
Yep.
And maybe Dylan's still wishing that the Kiwis won that World Cup way back when Barnes played a hand in it.
Yeah, he's still saying to Wayne Barnes that Freddie passes forward is what he's saying.
Exactly. But I mean, he's always been a piece of work, and but the timing of this cockness was, before a tour of a lifetime, was rather apt for Dylan.
Well, it really is. You think of people missing tours, there's always an injury, and you always feel so sorry for them. And here's a guy, he's just got out of his way to be a knob, and good punishment for him.
Yeah, the great thing about this is that the one name that was left off the Lions squad list, I mean, the list is so long, not many people are left off, but the one guy that was left off who was notable was Rory Best.
Yeah.
And this gets him back in there, so there's a bit of justice in that.
Yeah, good for him. The Irish should be happy with that. He is Irish, right?
Yeah, he's Irish. Wait,
Yeah, he
go,
is.
pulling it back.
Getting back in here, pulling it back.
No, but definitely that was the one selection that probably garnered the most criticism. Well, the most controversy, let's say. That and possibly Chris Robshaw. So by hook or by crook, Rory Best has come in there, and I think he'll challenge for a test place as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he would.
Yeah, well, I think Rob Shaw's counting ability in close encounters like this one, I think that ultimately went against him. Okay, Billy, so who's it going to be? It's a tough one. I tell you what, Sergio, it's league of his own kind of stuff, and I think what really for me makes it Sergio is that he got interviewed by Sky at Wentworth, and it's one of those things like they caught him in a practice round, and he knew it was coming. Now, on Friday on my site, I actually put a compilation of things where the exact same thing happened when he spat in a hole. And then he at length tried to justify the fact that it's okay. He spat in the hole, but it went in the middle. Now, this time round, he's saying, well, obviously, I'm not a racist. Really? I don't think your opinion matters anymore, buddy. You've just said that. It's blatantly racist, and I think it's just very inappropriate. Take everything else. It's inappropriate and it's stupid, and for that, he gets my vote.
Yeah, you've summed that up pretty well with Sergio. I think probably just on the magnitude of how the Garcia, because it involves Tiger, obviously it's sort of spiraled out, and the coverage it's got. I still find it tough to leave Dylan out, but yeah, I'm happy to join you with a vote for Sergio on this one.
Well, heat of the moment, the word cheat was used, but then Wayne Barnes is also in the picture. So not that I'm saying it's a less of an appeal. I'm just saying, I don't know.
You don't condone the actions, but you understand. Is what you're
There
saying.
we go. I'm more understanding of Dylan.
Okay.
And Sanzar, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Sergio, it is.
Sergio, it is.
Okay.
It's a pretty fair call, actually. I'm
All
thinking,
right. But I tell you what, we're going to go, Billy, we're going to take another track. We're going to come back and talk about the weekend that we have ahead of us. So I would love to have a tune to play out for Sergio, but we just don't have anything.
Gypsy Kings, maybe?
Yeah, we definitely we got to keep it to the high pitch Tuesday. So we're actually going to play. I'm going to creak the door on this one. We're going to play with Michael Jackson. I think that sums up Sergio right now. Because it was a racial comment, and Michael Jackson's been two races. He was black, and then he was white. Yeah. I salvaged that one. You listen to Blogz on Balls. We got 10 minutes left. We're going to see what's happening this weekend coming up. And we've got Sport Billy with us to help us with it. Stay tuned, as they say in the classics. Let's listen to another. Michael Jackson with Thriller. Michael Jackson, just another high-pitched artist that we had today. Although he wasn't as high-pitched as I thought he would be, actually. Look at this, and again, with this, this was a bit of a stretch, this music theme.
I like the way it flew. It's good music today.
Yeah, we had a bit of an awkward double play in the middle and we couldn't get hold of Dennis, but Sisters sort of screeched us two through that one. Okay, Billy, so we've got mostly rugby this weekend. Obviously, football's kind of just having that little city season break. Cricket, we've got some ICC Champions Trophy warm-up matches, but I don't think we're going to worry about those. I think they're racing cars in Canada, but we're not going to worry about that until Grosjean crashed into somebody. So we're focusing on the Super Rugby. Now, we're not going to focus too much on our picks. We're just going to quickly brush through them. First up, Crusaders versus the Waratahs. 9:35 Friday.
I say Crusaders.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so it is.
Waratahs, losing last week. Crusaders also losing last week. They're almost in the same position. They were expected to win away from home. But then again, very tough sort of competition. But hey, Crusaders should definitely have a little bit more wood over them on that one. Friday.
The Crusaders losing twice in a row. This
can't see it. No, I can't see it. Okay.
Yeah.
So actually, bet your house on that one. We've just said you should. Next up, we've got the Brumbies versus the Hurricanes. Another very good game for Friday. Two really good games actually for Friday morning, which is always nice if you are having a quiet day in the office. 11:40. Sean, Brumbies. You think Brumbies?
I do think Brumbies. There's a couple of things in the Hurricanes' favour. They're off a bye. They seem like with the log they have a little less to lose, it seems, because it's just kind of go or nothing for them. But that's potential banana peel, and I know the Brumbies are at home, but I think you got to back Brumbies to win it. Billy?
Yeah, Brumbies at home. I mean, they've sort of slumped a little bit, I guess, from how they started, but I think they'll be good enough at the brace.
Yeah, no, fine, I'm not going to argue with that. And then we go into Saturday, and the great thing for me about this tournament right now is you've got the games that mean a hell of a lot, and then you've got guys who are just trying to do a hell of a lot. And when I'm talking about those bottom feeders, which actually goes right up until the Stormers and Sharks, let's be fair. So you got these guys who are playing for pride, as they say in the classics, the post-match interviews, the pre-match interviews, the sort of witless journalistic comment going through the week. Playing for pride this week, we have the Highlanders taking on the Blues at 9:35 on Saturday morning.
Look, I think this game will be close than we think. We're noticing the weather in New Zealand at the moment. It looks awful.
It's always
really,
awful,
really
Sean.
bad. No, but
It's
you get a little bit of like clearness at the beginning of the year. But at the moment, you see most fixtures. We've seen rain. It's been cold. It's been windy. Like the last 3 or 4 weeks or so, let's say. And none of these games have been in Dunedin. New Zealand, the Highlanders have just come back from tour. They've just played the Force. I think there was a bye in between there. But I think the conditions are going to be awful.
But are they playing in their greenhouse?
Oh, it's the greenhouse, of course. You got to scrap everything I said about it.
I am pulling it back here.
Absolutely.
I asking myself in the cricket section, but look at me now.
Of course it is.
Nailing it. They're playing in the Forsyth Bar
Yeah,
greenhouse.
it's not in Invercargill or something, is it? Yeah. So that's totally out the window.
So for everything Sean just said, let's just put it down to pitch practice for radio.
Irrelevant.
Okay, well, look, I'm going to go Blues.
Call it even.
Blues?
Blues, you say.
Blues.
Yeah, look, we've learned not to back the Highlanders, hey. So
Yeah,
I'm not gonna start now.
as Billy said to me in a tearaway tweet, don't bet against the log. I'm not doing it here.
You know what I think? Just thinking of these kind of duels, of teams that don't have any chance. I mean, I think the Blues might have a mathematical chance still, but they should actually drop a team out of Super Rugby every week, kind of from round 10 or whatever.
Like Survivor.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Bottom of the log. Sorry, you're out of here. Yeah.
Exactly.
I like that idea.
You're not
After a
helping
certain
anybody.
point, like after 5 weeks or 6 weeks or say, they're out. And then you change the fixtures
and then
accordingly.
eventually left with six teams, and those guys play the playoff.
This is a brilliant idea.
This reminds
I'm
me of the
gonna
last
crunch
episode of
possibilities
Spartacus in season 2. Okay, Billy, next game we're up. We've got 11:40, and it's the Reds versus the Rebels. Yeah, cheap was a tough one to call.
Yeah,
The
it's-
current state of affairs. Reds came back from a tour where they lost to the Stormers. Rebels, well, they're still kind of flying high.
They're just playing good rugby.
They're playing good
Everyone's just
rugby.
got to admit that the Rebels have turned into a more than decent rugby side.
Why? Because they've taken away those drunks and Julios, O'Connor and Beale.
No longer the Melbourne rehabs, these guys. They're just a decent team.
Yeah.
Exactly. Take away the guys that think they're bigger than the game. Suddenly you got a team.
Yeah. Okay, guys, we have to push you for time here. Reds, Rebels. I'm just going to say Reds.
Yeah, I'm still going Reds.
Just like the Crusaders can't lose 2 in a row at this tournament, I just think the Rebels can't win 3 in a row at the start of the tournament.
That's a fair call. That's a fair call to work with.
Yeah, bringing it back hard here. In between there, just for instance, if we're worrying about the Lions tour, we are going to review the Lions tour at length next week. Preview, sorry.
Yeah.
1 o'clock on Saturday, Lions play against the Barbars in Hong Kong. So all those investment bankers over there making the good money, they're going to watch that game.
Yeah,
Get completely obliterated, no doubt.
I don't think the Barbarians team has been finalised yet, but there's the actual starting 15. But they did play on the weekend, and I'm not sure how they're going to juggle their match at
well, look,
23. But
Lions-
there'll be some familiar names, and it'll be Skulk Brits, who'll be playing at hooker.
Yeah.
Emmanuel Haranordiki is
Sean,
probably
we'll
going to
get
be
to it
playing.
next week. Sasha's really, he's ready to go here.
But anyway, point being, it's in between. For those who want to watch it, it's right in between the Australian kickoff and the South African kickoff. For
So
those
you
who
You might
fill
even
the
see
days with
BJ on
rugby.
the field.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could, yeah. Really great Saturday of rugby. And then onto the home front, we've got the Stormers playing the Kings at home. Yeah, you just got to go with Stormers in that one. And then finishes off on Saturday with the big one, the big game. Cheetahs versus the Bulls. Sasha told me the Cheetahs are going to win this one. It's at 7:10.
Go the Bulls!
This is definitely without doubt the game of the weekend for me. When you look at it on paper, it might be different when the
Look,
came out.
unlike the
But-
Sharks Bulls
Sharks
game,
taking 4 points for the bye is the game of the weekend for me.
like I think unlike the Bulls Sharks game, which is always going to be quite a sort of tense affair, this one will have tries, and I think the Cheetahs know the only way they're going to win is by throwing caution to the wind, and the Bulls might just get involved in that.
I'm thinking I'm gonna. I'm backing the Bulls. Yeah, I'm gonna back the Bulls.
I'm backing the Cheetahs because Sasha's sitting right there. Right, guys, that wraps up for this week. Thanks so much for joining us again. Our guest, Nishant from Alt Cricket, thanks for being with us today. Keegan Kruger, of course, you can catch it all on balls.co.za later this week. You get the whole show from top to bottom. You can see our moderately okay faces, although I must actually say webcams are not very flattering. Sasha agrees with me on this one as well. But yeah, thanks
Speak for yourself.
So coming from the guy who's backlit by blinds. I'll get a window. Anyway, guys, catch us next week. From me at Follow the Bounce, Ben Kopinski, and Sean
Wilson
at simply Sean _ on the
That's
Twitter.
me.
And don't forget Sport Billy at Sport Billy Says on the Twitter. The three of us will be back next week. We're playing out with our final high pitch classic, and this involves small children. So this will obviously be very high pitched. Catch us back next week. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a good one.